So hi and welcome everybody to Try This week. We have returning Craig from BigPicture Learning, and Craig, obviously this is quite a serious point we're making today, and I'd like to bring the tone down a little bit to kind of really focus on this. Today we'd like to talk a little bit about fun and change and where that might be appropriate and how that fits within an organisation. So tell me how this fits in your world, Craig, and what sort of things we need to consider.
So well, first of all, we're not talking about laughter therapy or anything like that.
Good.
So just in case anyone's getting a bit worried and thinking that we're going to get all happy clappy here, and it's about appropriate fun as well, clearly, because not every change situation is appropriate to have to use fun or humour. But what we're talking about here is actually engaging people with something that's actually they want to be part of, because it's interesting, it's intriguing, it's engaging. We use fun in its broadest context in a lot of the work that we do, and essentially because we want people to feel as though they want to take part in it. We want them to actually learn something. We want them to open their minds to what it is we want them to take part in, and actually using fun is a really effective way of doing that. So one of the techniques that we've used in the past, just as an example, was to make something like health and safety quite interesting and a little bit more engaging. Was we actually turned one of our clients' health and safety story or challenges or vision into a board game. So it was essentially a case that the participants played the game. They were learning all of the things they would have learned through a very traditional way of learning, through PowerPoint or a traditional workshop, but actually they were engaging with it in a much different way. So there were quiz rounds where they had to spot hazards, they had to show kind of almost what they already knew, which sort of made them feel positive and wanting to contribute.
And just on that point, just think about that, because we often talk about positivity and the green line, and if anybody's watched our previous Try This week's, we'll talk about the green line effect. Now for us, putting people in a positive emotional state helps them process more information, process more complex information, and become more adventurous. Almost seems like those three things. Definitely. When you're learning something as complex as critical as health and safety, that would have a really good impact.
Yeah, absolutely. All of those things, and I think that's the what we did is we moved that client away from a situation where people would tend to come in and sort of sit there with their heads down and let's get this over and done with as quickly as possible. And initially they came in and they were kind of a bit curious and wondering what's going on here, and this doesn't look like a typical health and safety training session. And then the body language started to change, and almost as you've said there, the arms started to unfold, and it was almost like they were drawn into the whole thing. And by the end of it, the feedback was it didn't feel like a health and safety session at all. It was but they learned as much as they would have in a conventional way. So I guess to try that for this week and I'm not suggesting everybody can go away and create something as complex as that, but it's how can we bring some fun into what we do. And a little story I was just going to share with that was many years ago when I worked in another organisation before I had my own business. And one of the challenges we had was I had a bunch of guys who performed some roles. I won't go into details, but basically they only got their results from that on a monthly basis. So there was a big disconnect with what they did and actually when they found out how well they'd done. So I looked around and I found there was a little kit that we could get them, which actually meant they could go around and actually monitor what it was they did themselves, albeit not to the same level of sophistication, but it meant they got real-time feedback. So we may not think that's fun, but actually, if I can measure what I'm doing and I can see whether I'm doing a good job or not, I'm much more likely to engage with that. So my tip this week is, what can I do in order to help my people to get some instant feedback on what they're doing? And that's obviously depending on what the people who are watching the video could be very different. But think creatively. What can I do to find a way that my people can get instant feedback and get all of those sort of engagement and that warmth of involvement that you talked about in your 3 principles as well, and how can I kind of engage them with their work?
Brilliant. So nice and simple. You try this week. How do you get people that instant kind of feedback as to where they are, and how do you make some of this learning fun along the way so they engage it, they absorb it, and they do something with it?
Absolutely.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.